So let's get straight into this. So with Fabio Wardley, the one thing I like about Fabio Wardley is that he definitely sets traps. He definitely sets traps. So one thing that he did or tried to do, or the one thing that Frazier Clark tried to do against Fabio Wardley was that he tried to control the right hook by putting his left hand on Fabio Wardley's left shoulder. Sorry, on his right shoulder. So by putting his left hand on his right shoulder, he tried to control the right hook. Now, just for a reference point, Evander Holyfield, when he fought Lennox Lewis in the second fight, I remember Don Turner said to Evander Holyfield, jab the right shoulder to take away the right hand. And in a sense, it looked like Frazier was not necessarily jabbing the right shoulder, but was trying to place his hand on the right shoulder to control it. And the way the trap is is it a trap? Well, it's definitely an amendment. What Fabio Wardley did, instead of punching at the target, he punched through the target. And by punching through the target, by putting the hand on the right shoulder, it didn't nullify the impact of the punch. Where had he punched at the target, he would have nullified the attack. So this subtle difference of punching at the target and punching through the target and knowing when to punch through the target was extremely, extremely significant. And this is the thing that Fabio can do. He can make those type of adjustments. And against, I think it's Justin Huni. Apologies if I made that mistake, but he's a really good boxer, by the way. And he was totally dominating the fight against Fabio Wardley. But again, Fabio Wardley just walked him in onto the right hand. And obviously there's a pattern here. And that's that the right hand of Fabio Wardley is extremely dangerous. It's not just the power, it's the timing and the accuracy that makes it dangerous. So it's not just the power, it's the timing and the accuracy. And he carries that power later into the fight, and that could be significant. So it's like if you're fighting him and you put the jab to the shoulder, you put your left hand to the shoulder, understand that if he punches through the target, he can knock you out. He has that type of power. Obviously, you can jab his right shoulder. Because if you hurt the shoulder and it's hard for him to throw the punch, maybe that slows the punching output of the right hand. But you have to be very wary of not just his power, but of his placement. And clearly, Ben Davidson, I believe, is his trainer. They work on drills on how to walk opponents into that punch. And the other good thing about Fabio Wardley is that he can maintain his composure when he's losing to still try to go through the drills. And that's what he did against Huni. So when we talk about punch creativity, and I will probably go into greater detail in other videos, Fabio Wardley, he likes to throw the jab. I've seen him throw the jab, short left hook, and then the straight right. This is something that Lennox Lewis used to do. It's a very good shot. Throwing the short left hook can move you into the right hand. And he also likes to put the jab to the body and then throw the overhand right. It's something that Canelo throws, a combination that Canelo throws. And again, it's the execution of the punch that is essential. So he has some variation in his punches. Remember, a heavyweight is not going to have the punch creativity of a super middleweight or lightweight. But Huni does have some punch creativity. But I noticed something interesting when I was watching Fabio Wardley. And, Joseph Parker's team are going to pick up on this. And I noticed in the Huni fight is that later in the rounds, he was dipping to his right. So initially, I think he would have either his hands up. I think sometimes he would do that, but mainly it's hands up. But when you feint him, he'll dip to his right, which is not a bad thing because that's a position of good defense. It's a good defensive position. But if you're dipping to the right, the short left hook is a great shot. And if you look at Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora, you'll see that he unloads loads of left hooks, 2 left hooks, 3 left hooks, etc. Bam, bam, and he can 1, 2, 3, he can just let them go. And if you're dipping to the right, you'll be susceptible to that punch. But you got to set it up with the feints. And it'll be interesting to see because it's clear that Joseph Parker will try and implement that technique, but it'll be interesting to see how Fabio Wardley reacts to that, because that will be that will signify if his boxing intelligence has increased. It will signify how much boxing intelligence does he have. And another thing I've noticed, so later in the fight, he was, dipping, reacting to the feints, but also when he's throwing his punches. Let me preface this. So in boxing, you could be on your front foot, you could be in the middle, or you could be on your back foot. So typically Lennox Lewis, mostly on the front foot or center. Evander Holyfield, mainly on the back foot. I notice he sometimes goes on the front foot. This means that the trajectory of a right hand is now closer. That's the drawback. But the reason he will do it is because it's a position where you'll have shorter range to the target, so you can really dominate from the front foot. But if you get caught clean, then it could be lights out, or there's more of a risk that you can get knocked out. Good example, Lennox Lewis, when he got caught by Oliver McCall, I believe he was on the front foot against Hasim Rahman again. So this position can give you a position to dominate, but you can be more susceptible if the opponent can get through with that right hand. These are not mistakes, I would say. These are habits. And I believe Freddie Roach said, the great trainer that trained Manny Pacquiao, what an amazing fighter he was. And he stated that elite fighters don't make mistakes. They just have habits. And it's about exploring those habits and building a strategy. And both of these fighters, Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley, they both have really good trainers. So in a sense, it's obviously in the literal sense, the context is it's a battle between Fabio Wardley and Joseph Parker, but also you've got the battle of the minds with Andy Lee and Ben Davidson, and they're both strategic trainers. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. And I really think this fight has the potential to have a combination of being tactical but also brutal. When you look at Joseph Parker's last fight against Martin Bakole, of course, there's the context of Martin Bakole had 24 hours to prepare. But when you look at the tactical element, he walked him into that right hand and, he finished the fight. And Joseph Parker is gaining weight and is developing more power, and he still is retaining some of that speed. So he is a serious competitor, and he has a high boxing IQ. And I'm kind of wondering, how is Fabio Wardley going to deal with that boxing IQ? And big respect for Fabio Wardley to initiate this fight. He wanted this fight, but this fight could be really spectacular.